I love turn-based RPGs. They might be my favorite type of game, and yet they're always the genre that I feel like most people come down negatively on, and I've been thinking about why, and I think I've realized it's because they are not games in the way people expect games to be. Let's talk about it. You know what is exactly what you expect? Me, because you expect good, quality, engaging content, and so you will like the video and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. I've been thinking about turn-based games a lot, especially since last year's Expedition 33 came out. That was a game that really took the world by storm and introduced a lot of people to turn-based RPGs, while ironically the game itself wasn't really a fully turn-based RPG thanks to its heavy use of quick-time events in its combat. And that got me thinking, why do so many people seem to come down so hard on turn-based RPGs? These games really are unique in that they are not games with gameplay so much as they are puzzle games, where each battle is a puzzle of some scale that you need to work out and solve. And I think that is what puts off a lot of people who may become expecting a more back and forth type experience. Ironically, for many turn-based RPGs, the more you know, the worse they can get. If an enemy, especially a boss, has a fixed attack pattern, by knowing that, it almost invalidates the boss combat itself. If you know what it's going to do, you know what you have to do. More than any other game, turn-based RPGs are the ones where following a guide can actually mostly play the whole game for you. Sure, you can look up a guide for Dark Souls, but you still have to go in and actually fight that boss. Nobody can do that for you. But with a turn-based RPG, if you know the commands you have to do and the order you have to do them, the game essentially plays itself. So the more fixed the enemy's attack pattern is, the more boring the game can get. So what this really means is that the skill that these games require is knowledge, not reflexes. And this can lead to a lot of problems as well when it comes to difficulty. This is something even I, who love RPGs, have never really understood this idea of difficulty in an RPG or playing on a harder difficulty. Because to me, it ultimately all just feels like numbers. If the enemy hits for more damage, okay, you can always get more numbers. You can over-reduce it, I think, more than any other game because you just are taking turns. What really makes a good RPG, and actually I think is very hard to do, which is why there's so few truly exceptional turn-based JRPGs, is you really have to get right this flow of battle and resource management, whether that's within the battle or across a dungeon. A lot of, I think, complaints with turn-based games, Pokemon especially gets this a lot, is how easy the individual combats are. But the point of these games is not necessarily the individual combats. If you're not healing after battle, if you're not getting your mana back for casting spells, the difficulty, the skill is not in handling individual enemies, it's in handling 50 encounters across an entire dungeon to make sure that you have enough resources left when you do get to the boss, which does require that more within a combat strategy. With boss battles specifically, it's this idea that you want to press the player. You want them to feel pressed and pressured. The boss should be a threat. Yet you always want the player to feel in control. You never want it to feel like they're always on the back foot, never getting a chance to be strong or do damage. And that can be some of the most engaging battles when you are trying to heal your party up, sneak some damage, try and maybe put a debuff on the boss if the boss allows it. And it's a very hard balance to get right, especially as you start upping the difficulty. I usually avoid those post-endgame secret bosses because to me they always just feel like the peak of what I'm talking about, where you have to max out your character level, so every character is the same now, and you have to have these special items, and you have to do this exact strategy or else you'll just get one shot. That to me is not fun. I don't care to do that, and if you care to do that, fine, great, but that just goes too far the other way. We're walking out what is essentially an already solved problem. This gets back to puzzles. If you know the solution to a puzzle, but it takes you 30 minutes to act out that solution, or God forbid you wipe towards the end and have to do it another 30 minutes or an hour. That's not fun. That's not fun. The fun was in solving the problem, not necessarily walking it out. And so ironically, even though RPGs are my favorite genre of game to play, it is also the genre of game that I feel like I give up on the most, because so many games do not do a good job of finding this balance between difficulty and gameplay and strategy and enjoyment. But when a game does do it well, it is so satisfying. And we've seen that again with some of those turn-based games that have broken into the mainstream. Persona 5, very traditional turn-based game, but also very popular. I think that is one of those games that did break out of its niche. Final Fantasy X, back when it first released on the PlayStation as well, I think also got a wider audience than maybe normal RPGs would have. I heard a lot of people talking about Expedition 33 and how it was good because of the QuickTime events, and that's what made it a playable turn-based RPG. And regular turn-based RPGs need to do stuff like that, or else they're not worth it. And that, I think, is a bridge too far. You don't need all this stuff. You don't need ATB systems like the original Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and 9 had, because really all that does is put you on a clock to make the same decisions. That's fine, that can add to the gameplay, but again, it's not necessary, because I think it's trying to solve a different problem than the straight turn-based game is trying to solve. The straight turn-based game is just trying to, again, solve that puzzle of how do you take on this enemy? The ATB, all that does is you have to do that, but you also have to make decisions quickly. It's the same game, but one just makes you make the decisions quicker. It doesn't change the core strategic thinking that's required. It just changes the speed at which you have to do it. Turn-based RPGs require a different expectation for what a game is and what your experience with the game is going to be like. If you can make that jump in your head and realize that you're getting in for a more puzzle-type experience, it is more about how a number of encounters play out, how a stretch of battles play out as far as management, finding that joy in learning how to go into encounters, do them effectively and efficiently. That is where the real joy comes from turn-based RPGs. And it is a bummer to me that so many studios seem to be moving away from traditional turn-based RPGs. I'm very glad that Atlas continues to put them out, because they are continuing to iterate on those formulas. Persona 5 was fantastic. Shin Megami Tensei 5 was even better. And then we had Metaphor ReFantazio, which continues to iterate on the core gameplay of those turn-based games and deepen the strategy without compromising it by adding in additional features from other genres. Hopefully in watching this video, you are encouraged to try some turn-based RPGs, because I do think they can be some of the most satisfying, engaging gaming experiences to be had. What do you think? Am I just a boomer? Are turn-based RPGs a thing of the past? Let me know in the comments down below. What's your favorite RPG? If you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all with the next video.